All right, so now you should all be seeing the LocalHop library. This is our demo site. So this is essentially what it will look like for your library staff members when they log in, this is what they'll see. So the event calendar, again, this is internal facing. There's a key over here so you know what each little icon means. So anywhere you see that little LocalHop pin icon, that's an event that has registration associated to it. If you hover over an event with registration, you can see how many people have registered for that program versus how many spots are still available, just so you know at a quick glance. You're also seeing the little Rolodex icon that is part of our communications portal, which is where if you do have an event with registration, you can go ahead and send out a mass email to all of the individuals that have registered. And then the little label is going to be your status icon. So the 3 different status options we have are draft, scheduled, and published. Draft and scheduled, meaning that they are internal facing only. They are not live on the public calendar. But scheduled, obviously you have predetermined a date and time for when that event will be published. And then published obviously means that that is going to be live on the public site. Your patrons can see it, interact with it, save it to their calendar, possibly register for it, all of the options. The list over here is going to give you the same information, just in a different view. So it's going to default to start with today and show all of your upcoming programs and events. With either view, when either that month view or the list view, you can click on an event. You can edit it and edit it at any time. So whether it's published or still in draft status, you can still make changes to it. And then you always have the option to duplicate an event. So if you're doing something that's very similar to an event that you've already done in the past, you can duplicate it. It'll copy over all of the information and you can just schedule a new date and time or tweak it where necessary. So whether you duplicate an event or start from scratch, you're always going to start at step 1, which is your event setup, and your default your default status will always be draft. Can't talk today. So basic information here and the name of your program, a little description. If you're doing virtual programming, you can just check the box and that will allow you to input any virtual information that you want. And then you have the option to show that to everyone, which would display any information you have here right on that event page on the website. Or you can show to only registered users. In that case, only people who register for the program would be able to see this information, which they would receive in their confirmation email. Otherwise, on the actual event page, it just states that this is a virtual event. Otherwise, you'll have an event in person, probably at your location, so at your library address, which you can save as part of your profile. You can also save additional venues. So if you're seeing my drop down here, you can, host an event at the YMCA. We see a lot of local parks, rec centers, any sort of local place where you might be co-hosting or hosting a program or an event. But you always have the option to manually type in an address as well. And then categories and age groups. Again, this is going to be whatever is relevant to the program you're creating. This is our demo site again, so we just have some fun categories in here. But you select whatever is necessary and then just hit the arrow to move it over and make that active. Same with the age groups. You do have the option to control your own age groups. So if your patrons are already familiar with a select set of age groups that you're currently using, you can go ahead and set those up for yourself here.
Hey, Courtney.
Sure.
Just one thought there, perhaps for us, because the state of Wisconsin requires us to keep information on programs by a number of different categories, and each library actually has to report those on an annual basis to the State Department of Public Instruction. And it strikes me as those categories could be set up to align with those categories to facilitate better statistics keeping, even for annual report purposes at the end of the year. So that was just a thought that came up. Sorry, didn't mean to derail your presentation.
No, that's awesome. I wasn't aware of that actually, so thank you for that information. Yeah, the categories are global settings, so we can control them. But if you let me know, like if I have a list of what those are, I can make sure that they're all included, so that when you go through your reporting, you can kind of filter by categories and report that as necessary. So thanks, Steve. Otherwise, you can upload an image. You don't have to, but you always have the option. We have a recommended size, but whatever you put it here will look good. We don't stretch it or morph it, crop it in any way. From there, you'll save and continue, which would take you into step 2. Again, pretty straightforward. You're just following the process here. This is where you'll set up your date and time and also registration if necessary. So with when you're setting up a date and time, you can have multiple instances. So you can have it recurring daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly. Or you can create it just for one time. Let's say we want to create this weekly. Now we have the option to choose the days of the week that we want this event to take place. So maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, starting this Friday. Select a time. And then you can have it end on a specific date. So maybe we just want to go through the month of April, or we can have it end after a certain number of occurrences. So maybe it's just a 6-session course on Microsoft Excel. Either way, you can save those and you're going to get a generated list of all of the dates that you've just selected so that you can quickly look at that and decide, oh, you know what, this Monday we're closed. Maybe it's a holiday, whatever reason you might not be wanting to host the event, you can quickly take it off the list and then confirm from there. So once you've saved, you still have the option to remove dates and times. You also have the option to edit specific dates and times. So maybe the 31st is a different holiday. So we want to change this so that it takes place maybe a day earlier. Or maybe we want this to start, there's a delayed start this day. We can change those dates and times. If you are using the room reservation software, this is where you're going to have the option to set up a room for this program. You can do it individually just by using this little plus icon, where it's going to pull all of the rooms that might be available on that date and time. Or because we have multiple days, we can set up a recurring room. So this will default to select all of the instances because we want to make a reservation for all of them. We'll hit continue and it's going to pull a list of all of the rooms that are available. So you can see here this meeting room is only available 3 out of our 5 instances, and it's going to show us exactly what dates and times that it is not available. But we do have the option for conference room AB. It's available all 5 instances. So we're going to choose that, continue, select the layout. Here we can add additional setup and breakdown time if we need it. We can also add additional equipment. Maybe we need a stapler, maybe a hotspot. And then you can add in contact information. Now, one of the things we do plan on changing is making this so that it automatically pulls the contact info for the staff member that's making the reservation. But right now I'm just pulling that from my browser. And then because we are making this from an event, it's going to just pull the name of the event into this description. And then it's going to automatically check the box that we agree to our own room policy because we're using it for ourselves. Notes, you can leave additional notes for your staff members or for yourself if you're going to be the one that's getting this room set up for each of these programs. But then we'll continue and hit reserve. So then we'll get I guess one of the pieces of equipment was unavailable. Didn't go through. That's okay. So otherwise, everything else will go through. You'll see your confirmation, and then you'll see that the one unsuccessful piece of equipment did not go through, must be already in use at that time. But all the other rooms did. So now instead of being able to edit them, we have to first cancel the room. And then if we want to set up registration or ticketing, if you are doing any sort of paid programming, you have that option. You do always have the option to use an external link. So if you're already using some sort of software, you can just link out to that. Otherwise, you can use the LocalHop ticketing. And then the first thing you'll do is set up the configuration. So you have different button label options. This is just what the button says that your patrons will be clicking on. So do you want that to say register, buy tickets, or sign up? If it's mostly free, probably going to be using register or sign up. But again, it just sort of depends on the event that you're creating. And then you do have the option to create custom forms. So by default, LocalHop will always ask for the name of the attendees and contact person and their contact information. But with a custom form, you can ask whatever you want. So if you need to know what city they live in, what zip code, if they have any food allergies, who's their favorite celebrity and why, whatever you want to ask, you can put that into a form. I'll just use a demo form for now. And then your total capacity. So this is going to be how many people can in fact attend that program. And then if it is a free program, you can allow a wait list. We do not do wait lists for any sort of paid programming just because we do not hold any credit card information. So if it's free, you can use the wait list. Once you have that saved, you do have to set up at least one ticket type. And I know the word ticket is sometimes confusing, but what that means is it's really the thing that's being reserved. So it's like the seat in the room. So for most cases, you might only have one ticket type, and that could just be the name of the event, just to make it very intuitive for your patrons. Some instances where you may have multiple ticket types could be multiple time slots. So I know tax season is upon us. A lot of libraries around here are bringing in tax consultants that may be sitting in the library for 3 to 4 hours, and patrons can sign up for a 30-minute time slot to sit with that consultant. So in those cases, you would have different ticket types for, like, say 9 o'clock to 9:30, and maybe only 4 people can sign up per half an hour. You can say, put something in the description that makes it clear to the patrons. 30-minute time slot. If I can spell, that would help. So that's just an option where you might have multiple ticket types. Otherwise, like I said, it could be very plain, simple, easy. The overflow quantity, just to give you a little insight, I really see this most commonly used in youth programming. Basically, let's say this is just a toddler story time and I want to match the quantity with the total event capacity, which I set to 20. I set the overflow to, let's say, 2. That means I really have room for 22 children, but I'm only advertising that we have room for 20. And where this comes into play is, let's say 19 out of those 20 seats have already been reserved, and I have 2 children of my own that I would like to sign up for the program. I wouldn't be able to because there's really only 1 spot left. So instead of choosing my favorite, I would be able to add them both to the wait list, and then the wait list would recognize that there is some overflow, and it would allow that extra 1 person to sign up. So it would automatically move my group of 2 up onto the guest list, and then it would notify me accordingly. So, and then it would be totally maxed out. Even though you hit 21, we're not going to try and get rid of that 1 extra seat. So that's kind of, again, where I see it used the most, really, in those situations. But just so you know how it works and understand it, you can use it as needed. Then the last thing here is that your registration start and end time, it's going to always default to become available at the time you're creating it and end at the time the event starts. In this case, we have a series event, so that's going to end at the time of the very last instance of that. But obviously you can change that as needed. So then once you have that saved, you saw me click on it already, you can view the guest list. Clearly no one has signed up for this yet, but as a staff member, you can always add guests to the guest list. So if a patron calls you on the phone or they come up to the front desk and they need help registering, you'd be able to assist them. Let's say they want just to sign up one person. You can put in their name. Again, if this is like a youth program, I could put in my child's name. So we'll put in Nick Fordo. And then this is that custom form. So I use that demo form. It's asking what's my favorite color. Nick's favorite color is blue. And then what month is his birthday in? It is in July. So I would just answer those questions, hit continue, and then contact information. I would want them to contact me if something happens. There's a delay, cancellation, anything like that. So now you see that Nick has been registered for the program. When you click on his name, you can see his answers to those form questions. And then also you have the option to download the guest list, which will download to a CSV file, and it will also include all of the answers to those custom form questions as well. The last thing here, so once you go through all of that, you do have the option again to save. So you can always add guests even when a program is in draft status, only as an admin. Otherwise, no one else can sign up until it's published. So, which case, again, you have the option to schedule and publish, which here you'll select a date and time, or you can save and publish right away. So once you hit save, you're going to be taken to the confirmation. You see the status has changed from draft to published, and you'll get a quick little synopsis of everything you've just created, and then you can preview and share the link to the event or directly to social media. And then it's going to also be pushed live onto the calendar on your website. Cool. So let's go into room management. So I'll use this room. This is the room that we created our event program in for the month of April. This room is a large room with a dividing wall. So that's why we labeled it conference room AB. And we also have room A and room B. I don't know if any of you have split room capability in your library, but just so if you do, I'll walk you through that. If not, we don't have to worry about it. All the other options are still the same. So if you're adding a room or editing a room, this is what it's going to look like. So you'll have it room name, a room type. The room type's not really visible to the patrons, but it does allow you to set up different limitations per room type. So we do have a lot of libraries that have study rooms and meeting rooms, and their study rooms are just free for all. Anyone can use it as long as it's open, but meeting rooms, they're limited to a patron can only use it like once a week or once every 5 days. However, they, whatever their policy is, they're always different. So I'm just going to walk you through all of the options that you have, because again, I'm sure each of you do things a little bit differently. So just so you have an understanding of the different capabilities that we have to offer. So then your room description, a form, again, you can add a custom form. So if you're allowing your patrons to make a reservation online and you need to gather specific information from them, you can add that to a form and then they'll have to fill all of that out. If you're charging for a room, you can charge per hour or per session. You can always discount a room, but you can't charge more than what the fee is set to. So if you have like fluctuating rates, I always recommend putting in the highest rate and then being able to discount that from there. If you are allowing the public to make requests online, you have the option to decide if you want to require approval for those requests. So if so, anytime a person makes a reservation for a conference room AB, it will come into LocalHop as pending. And as a library admin, I can go in and either approve or deny that request. deposit option, and then minimum and maximum time block. So maybe you have parameters within your library where a reservation has to be at least 30 minutes long, but no more than 4 hours. Minimum and prior create time, maybe they have to create a reservation at least 1 day in advance, but no more than 3 months in advance. All of these can be changed again depending on what your policy is. It's very customizable. And then prior edit and cancel time, just how far in advance are you going to allow patrons to edit or cancel their reservations? The option to allow walk-ins. If you do have limitations in place, the walk-in will sort of bypass those limitations as long as the room is available. So in this case, we have, they, that they have to make a reservation at least 1 day in advance. But what time is it? I'm in Eastern time, so it's almost 3 o'clock. So if I set this to 15 minutes and I allow walk-ins, that means that if I walked into the library now, I would be able to make a reservation for 3 o'clock for conference room AB because it is available beginning at 3 and I'm within that 15-minute window. Otherwise, if you don't want people to do that, just hit no, and they'll still have to remain within their 1 day limitation. I'm going to change these just for the sake of testing now, or not testing, for the demo. I've been testing all day. So then the next part here is sort of the reservation list. I call it the subscription list. That's basically what it is. So you can add emails here, and they're basically subscribing to this room. So if my name is here, which it is, even if I'm an admin and I just opt out of email confirmations, I don't need to know every room that's being reserved. I don't want to be notified every time there's a registration or reservation created. But if my name is here, or my email address, excuse me, then I am still going to be notified anytime a reservation is created in this room specifically. And then same with the facilities email. The only difference between the two is that the facilities email has some more in-depth details of the reservation. So where the normal reservation email is going to say, hey, Courtney reserved conference room AB for Tuesday at 2 o'clock. The facilities email will say, hey, Courtney reserved the conference room AB for Tuesday at 2 o'clock in classroom style seating with a TV, with the whiteboard, with the coffee maker. So if you have a facility staff or you have team members that are assisting, setup or breakdown of events, programs, things like that, you can add them as a facilities email subscriber. But that's the biggest difference. The parent room. So like I mentioned, if you do have split room capability, the biggest room is going to be a parent to the two smaller rooms. So in this case, conference room AB is the parent. So I'm not going to add a parent room here. I'm going to, when I set up those smaller rooms, add conference room AB as their parent. Room availability, whatever hours of availability, when can this room be reserved? Layout options. We do have some default options that you can select from. I always recommend to all the libraries that I work with to actually upload an image of the room. It's just a little more user-friendly for patrons, even staff members, to know what they're getting. And then you can put in a little description and a maximum capacity. Because obviously you don't want a group of 50 reserving a small study room that seats 5. And then room equipment. This is equipment that is fixed to the room. So it's not going to be moving in and out. That would be TVs mounted to the wall. Maybe you have speakers in the room, a whiteboard on the wall. Again, things that cannot just be easily moved in and out. If you have equipment that can, that's where our portable equipment comes in. And you can add to the list here. And this equipment can be reserved in conjunction with those reservations, like you saw me do earlier. And anytime that you use equipment, so let's say I'm using conference room AB Tuesday at noon with the stapler. If Steve wanted to go in and use, conference room G for Tuesday at noon, the stapler wouldn't be an option for him to select from. And you can also add fees to equipment if you have things that cost your patrons an additional amount of money to use. You can add that in here as well. Unavailable dates, this is where you're going to add days where you are closed when you would normally be open. So typically holidays, but could be scheduled maintenance, cleaning, anything like that. And it will just completely block the day off from being able to reserve any sort of reservation. A room policy, if you have it, you can upload it here. If you do have a room policy uploaded, we do recommend or require anyone who is creating a reservation to check the box that they agree to the policy, and then they have the option to download it and read through it. And we also send it as an attachment in their confirmation email as well. So can guarantee that we provide it to them. I can't promise that they read it, but I'm sure you also have that somewhere on your website as well. And then the last thing here is, well, I guess not the last thing, but one of the bigger things is the room reservation settings. So a lot of the limitations that we just walked through are room specific. So those can be, dependent on the room or room type that you're creating. These settings are going to apply across the library as a whole. So the calendar, this is just how you want to view the calendar, and I'll show you what the room availability view looks like. And then the option to limit by number of active reservations. So if I set this to 1, that means I cannot create a new reservation until my current one has concluded. So if I do have a reservation for Tuesday at noon, I wouldn't be able to make a new reservation until Tuesday at 1, assuming my reservation was for an hour. Hours of reservation time per period, or just number of reservations per period. You can kind of decide how you want these to look. Again, dependent on what your policy is, but you can sort of limit by, 1 reservation per week or per day, or maybe 3 reservations per month. Again, totally customizable for whatever your requirements are. And then you can also set this by hours of reservation time. So this isn't super common. So if anyone does this, you can continue. But I think this is the most common. We have a few libraries that are limiting their patrons by 4 hours of reservation time per week. And that could be 1 reservation that spans 4 hours. It could be 8 reservations that are 30 minutes long. They don't care as long as it's only 4 hours per week. So again, you have those options. And then room specific settings. So again, like I mentioned, this is really where that room type comes into play. If you wanted to have different requirements for study rooms versus conference rooms, maybe you're limiting this to once a day, but study rooms you don't really care about. Again, just additional options for you all. And then if you are doing walk-ins, you can decide if those count against any of your limitations or not. And then if you are requiring approval for a room, you can set up reminders. So these reminders go to staff members who have administrative rights to go in and approve or deny reservation requests. So let's say I kept these. So reservation, reminder 1 for 1 day, reminder 2, 8 hours. So if I went in and today's Wednesday, if I did submit a request for Tuesday at noon, 1 day later, so this time tomorrow, if no one has approved or denied my reservation, those same administrators would be reminded through email that, hey, Courtney made a request. We need to check it out. 8 hours after that first reminder, if my request is still sitting in pending status, then a second reminder would go out. And it's just sort of a way to foolproof the system. So again, these can be changed, again, depending on what your policies are. The facilities reminder email is a little different, again, with the facilities team having all that additional information on those reservations. If I kept this at 1 day, that means like first thing in the morning, these facility team members are getting an email with all of the reservations that are happening that day. So for the next 24 hours, they're going to see everything that's going on. I'm going to skip this for a second. You do have an option over here to manually trigger a facilities notification. So if you wanted to prep them for next week, say, okay, starting Sunday to Saturday for the next week, hit send, and anyone who's marked as a facilities team member will get an email with all the reservations that are happening within this time frame. But back over here, the last option is the option to require a LocalHop login. It's not required. You don't have to make it required. Your staff or your patrons can log in without it. So if you are using any of these limitations, we validate a patron by their email address. So I don't know about you guys, but I have about 5 email addresses. So it's not totally foolproof. However, if you require a login, then we will make sure that we always are pulling the same email address because that's the email that they've used to log in. Now, again, they could log in with 17 different email addresses. It's not totally foolproof. We can integrate with your ILS, which is probably the best foolproof way to make sure that a person is who they say they are. Otherwise, there's no perk to having them log in. If they do log in, they can see all their upcoming reservations and all the programs that they've registered for. They can edit, cancel, do whatever they need to do. But again, it's not a requirement. Let's see, there was something in the chat. Can they log in with the barcode number? So we can do the integration so that they have to input their barcode number when they are filling out the form to make a reservation request, but we don't use their barcode number to log into LocalHop. So like their account would still be separate from their library card number. Does that make sense? Good to go. So what I want to show you is on the reservation calendar. We're seeing this is a reservation I made earlier, but in that conference room AB, which has 2 halves, which are smaller rooms, we're still blocking those on the calendar. So because we're using the full room, that means no one can reserve even 1/2 of the room. This does work vice versa. So let's say I wanted to create a reservation for room A today at 4 o'clock. I could go ahead and do that. We'll do an internal reservation. With the stapler. I just love the stapler. Go through all that information and then reserve. And so what you're going to see now is that the other half of the room is still available, but the full room is now unavailable. So if you do have split rooms, this is what you'll see. If not, you'll just see that sort of blue teal color anytime you have an approved reservation on your calendar. We do have the option to view a month view of all the reservations. If you have a lot of reservations, this can be very lengthy, but it does give you just like a quick little synopsis of everything that's going on. This red reservation is a reservation that has a fee owed still. So when I click on this, I have the option to collect payment. We can take a credit card. Everything is processed through Stripe. So you can Google like Stripe security, or, you'll get dozens of documentation articles. Then you can also take cash, or you can process a card through your own point of sale system. But at least this way you can sort of track that it's been paid for. So or you can take cash or check, but let's say I do this, we're collecting $20, submit that payment. And now I'll see that has gone from red. bluish teal color. It's the same in the list. So you'll see that there's an approved status, a free status. Again, if there was money owed, it would show up red and say that it's been unpaid so that you know that you need to collect money. You can filter by status. So if you are, going through and just want to check out all of the pending requests, you can filter by them and just go down the list and either approve or deny. You can search by keyword, typically first or last name, email address, so that if a patron calls, you will be able to pull up their reservation. Maybe they deleted their email or just forgot. I don't know, but you can help them out. And then you can always edit a reservation as well. And with that, any of the information. So if you wanted to change the room, the date, the time, you could do that. If you're changing the layout, the number of people, you need more equipment. Again, it's going through the whole process again and just allowing you to change any aspect of it. And then the create reservation, again, you saw me do that on like the calendar, just anywhere there was a white tile means that the room is available during that time. But you can also use the create reservation to search for like a specific day in the future. Maybe we're looking for, a day in May and just want to know what's available. We can sort of select different rooms, times, and move through the reservation process that way. So I'm gonna do a time check. I think I'm gonna the bulk upload. Yeah, so the bulk upload is I can see it because I'm a LocalHop employee. But what this does is when you switch over from your current vendor, you can hopefully get an export of all of the events that you have already uploaded. And what we can do is basically transport all of those into LocalHop so that it saves time for, switching software.
And Courtney, that would presumably work for something like exporting all of the events out of a Google-based calendar for uploading into LocalHop as well, yeah?
Yeah. Yes. And the only reason that it's only like you have to go through us to do it is because when we first built out this, I guess, this part of the feature, we were using third-party developers. Now everything is developed in-house, but some of that code still exists and it's very like temperamental. So it has to be in very specific format. So basically we'll take the data, manipulate it a little bit, and then be able to upload that for you. Different roles for staff. Yeah. So over in your organization, I guess I didn't walk you guys through this. So let me do that really quick. Your profile is going to be all of your library information. So a little description, contact info, logo, banner image. This information is used to brand the confirmation and reminder emails that are sent to your patrons when they register for programs or make a room reservation. So you can change it at any time, but probably not going to change too often. But here with your users, so you can upload add as many users as you need. And each role is editable, configurable by feature. So you can have staff members that have maybe full access to create rooms, edit rooms, make reservations, but maybe they can't create events or they can't edit other users. So you can really set that up dependent on each person. So yeah, not everyone is an admin. The very first person which usually is the director, is automatically a super admin, which the only difference between a super admin and being an actual admin on everything else is that the super admin has access to all of the code snippets that would go right on your website. And they also have access to like the billing and payment, merchant account information, transaction information. So if you are doing any sort of payment processing, whether that's for programs or for room reservation, not everyone will have access to that. But yeah, good question. The form builder, I know I talked about the custom forms. So this is where you go to create those. So our demo form is the one that you saw me use earlier, but we have a text field, which as you saw, I just typed in the word blue. That's again, really used as like a single line response. We do have the text area, which can be used for more of a paragraph style response. So if you did want to know who's your favorite celebrity and why, you might want to use the text area. The drop down, like you saw when I selected what month is their birthday in, it's where you're giving them the option to choose from a list of many. And then the checkbox, I like to explain because it's not like letting them select all or select many from a checkbox. It's you're uploading a file where they have to agree to the terms of use. There's maybe a waiver form, or you to maybe check the box that they are 18 years or older, or that they are a resident, something that you want them to agree to. And then with any of the form elements, you can make them required or not. If they're required, obviously they won't be able to move forward until they've responded to them. Otherwise, they'll have the option to leave it blank. So you can use these for registration and for rooms. Once you create a form, you can use it multiple times, or you can use it once and then just save that data. The notifications, I kind of touched on this with the rooms, how you can actually have like subscribers to specific rooms. That's sort of the same thing, or kind of an enhancement, I guess, to the notifications. The age groups, like I mentioned, you can create your own. So this is where you would go to do that. You just add an age group, give it a name, associate a color to it, and then you do have to associate it to one of these 5 default age groups. And the only reason for that is on our community calendar, which is an option for everyone, we only showed these 5 age groups. So the community calendar, just to go over that really quick, does allow you to add other organizations to the calendar. So all they have to do is sign up for a free LocalHop account. Basically, kind of would replace like an Eventbrite or like brown paper tickets, some other sort of registration platform. They can use the LocalHop registration, or they don't have to. They can just create the event in LocalHop and link out to whatever registration tool they want. But whatever events they create, as long as you have added their organization to your community calendar, those events will automatically populate. So drives a little more traffic to your website. Just another option to, provide to your patrons, another resource. But it's always an option. You don't have to use that. And then the last thing is the additional venues. Again, you saw when I was creating that event that we have that drop down we can select from. This is where you would go to create those. So high level, basic setup, things that might not change very often, but yeah. Okay, Sarah asked, how are events pushed to the website? Do we need a widget? So it's all through a code snippet. So you'll come here, go through your calendar snippet. The calendar, there's different views. So your calendar is your basic month view. The mini calendar is just a shrunken down version of that. We're super original with the naming. Hopefully it's pretty straightforward. But it's usually used on like a home page. Same with the mini list. There's the option for a panel view, which is horizontal, and then the list view, which is a vertical list. Like I said, super original with our naming. But yeah, so you just copy and paste this code. This is custom HTML. So as long as your website allows for custom HTML, you can just plug it on there and it will automatically populate whenever you create or add an event. And it's the same for rooms. So you can have a little snippet on your website for all of your rooms, or if you wanted to break it out by room type, you could do that as well. Good questions. Oh, one thing I wanted to say on this, the show as overlay. So because we do credit card processing through Stripe, that has to be done through our website. So whenever there's the opportunity for any sort of payment, that does punch out to the LocalHop website. Um, so even if it's free, it's just because it's the way it has to be set up. So if you choose to show as an overlay, what that does is, even though all the events and everything live on your website, the overlay will, as soon as you go to registration, it'll pop up on screen. They'll fill out the form, select how many people they're registering, submit, and then they can close that out, and it feels like they never left your website. So I always recommend that as well. All right, Steve, could you show example? Yeah. So let me pull up over here. Let's see. Baldwin is using a mini calendar. So they can be customized. Oh my gosh, excuse me. They can be customized as well. So you can see that they've changed the colors to match their color palette. But this is the mini calendar, obviously. So it has a little list on the side. We can kind of scroll through, or we can select a certain day and just see what's happening on that day. I can click to get a little brief description of what's happening. If I click for more information, I will get this little pop-up. But you can see all of this is still living right on their website. That's because it's all being managed through that code snippet. And then if I go to their month view, again, edited to match their color palette. So if I scroll down, we're at the end of the month. So you can see everything that they have going on today. Again, if I mouse over, I can kind of see what's going on, what a little description. If I click on it, I'm still on their website. Registration's closed for this, but I can add to the calendar. I could register for it. I can see their event description. I can see if there's upcoming events within the series. And then they have a link for more information, which is taking us to a specific page on their website. Another one I can think of is, oh gosh, if I can type, or Rochester. They have theirs set up through the overlay. So just to show you all what that looks like, see if I can get, yeah, here we go. So this does a pop-up, and I don't know why it's not loading. Oh, there it goes. Sometimes when I share my screen, everything's delayed. Okay, so they have, this is that registration as an overlay. So this is technically an iframe of the LocalHop website, but you can see it's very, seamless. I need a library card to register for their programs, but I could go through the process, and then it would close me out, and I would just be on their website still. So that's what that looks like. Do pop-up blockers interfere with the overlay? I don't think so. I haven't had any issues with pop-up blockers blocking the overlay, so it should be good. I can double check with the development team, but I have not heard of any issues with that. You guys are asking good questions. This is fun.
But then my question is, Courtney, how do folks find help documentation and learn about specific features outside of talking to someone like yourself or contacting support directly? Do you have any like help documentation that folks can browse through and look at to learn more about how this works?
Yeah. So on our website, actually, I'll just go to the live site. So, oops, getlocalhop.com. We have under our resources tab here, there is support articles. And down here is all of our guides on, you know, each new feature that we pull out. We just um, built our RSS builder, which I should have walked you through. What it's not on our demo site yet because it literally went live this week. But you'd be able to pull an RSS feed that you can use in like email marketing if you have any sort of like screen reader in your library. Any reader, any RSS reader, you can push this through. So there's a little guide there, but everything is kind of listed out here. We are working on, we do have some designs right now for kind of updating this page. So, but it's constantly being updated, especially as like you just saw, as we roll out new features or if things change, it'll always be updated. We also have a YouTube channel, so you can search in YouTube for LocalHop and kind of find some videos on either like full demos or broken up clips on each specific feature. So otherwise, you can always email support@getlocalhop.com or you can reach out to me directly.